and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes podcast. My name is Audrey and this is a knitty yarny podcast from the southwest of France. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you are all doing very well and that you're not melting if it is still very hot in your place of the world. It is at mine. We had a couple softer days last week, but now it's back to being over 33, 34 degrees, and yeah, it looks like it's going to be like this for a while. So it's summer. I think I have a rather short, but I hope sweet, episode this week because my projects at the moment happen to be at a stage where even if I feel like I work on them a lot, it's not visibly progressing, or they're about to be finished, but they're big things, so they take a while, as you will see. So there's that. I have though a new cast on to share with you, which is a new design in the works, so I will talk about it last. And I also want to have a little yarn show for you at the end of the episode. So yeah, let's get started. Took 2 minutes and I'm already too hot. So yes, knitting wise, the first project I want to share with you is my Green Gables shawl, which is my lace circle shawl. And so it's a little bit funny. So the way the pattern is made is that you have one file for the charted instructions and one file for the written instructions. Now, if you do buy the pattern, I strongly advise you to check the charted instruction from time to time, because in the charted file you have information about the construction of the shawl that you don't have in the written instructions. So what happened basically is that I was knitting with the written pattern, because I'm like this, and so it's divided by charts, different lettered chart, and I was in chart H. And there was still chart I after that. And so I thought, okay, it's quite good. I still have about 35 rows because chart I had 35 rows. So I was like, okay, maybe it's going to take me a couple more weeks. But when I got to checking chart I noticed it was exactly the same as chart H that I was doing, extended, because obviously you had more stitches, but it was the same motif, and I thought that was a little bit odd, so I went to check the chart instruction, and it turns out that the shawl finishes with chart H, and not chart I is just an extension in case you have more yarn and you want your shawl to be like this bigger. So I still have lots of yarn. I think I'm going to use about half less yarn than I thought I would. So yeah, I could have done that extra chart, but at the same time it's the same motif repeated, and I thought it looked quite bulky at the end of the shawl, because it's a rather, I'll show you in a minute, it's a rather plain, not full motif, as in it's a lot of stockinette compared to the rest of the shawl, which has lots of motif and stuff. And so I thought if I made that thing, it would really add like a really bulky border all around the shawl, which I thought didn't necessarily look like I wanted it to. So I decided I would not make that chart, and I was like, it means I'm finished. So that was on Monday. We're Wednesday today. So on Monday I finished the chart where I was supposed to finish, and I was like, hey, it's so cool, and I wrote on Instagram stories, hey, I'm going to have it finished tomorrow because I only have to bind off. And so I am in the process of binding off. The thing is, how naive was I to think that I could bind off a lace circle shawl in just a few hours. I spent like 4 or 5 hours yesterday and I've only bound this off. I have about 900 stitches. It takes me an hour to bind off 60. What you're doing when you're binding off is you're making sort of a I-cord. It's odd. Can I pick it up properly? Yeah. So you can see what I'm doing. You're doing these two stitches here by binding off, and you're adding these loops by making yarn over. So hopefully this, I will be able to block it properly, although I doubt it. But yeah, basically you're adding whatever is on top of my finger here to the shawl when you're binding off. I filmed myself binding off so you can see what I'm talking about. It's just a very lengthy bind off. It is quite fun to work. Basically, it's on 2 rows, so you're sort of making like a border / bind off at the same time. And what the pattern says is that you yarn over, knit 2 together, knit 2 through the back loop, which knit 2 together through the back loop, which is what binds off 1 stitch. And then you're supposed to turn, slip 1 stitch, and then knit 2 from these 3 stitches. So you see, it's kind of like an I-cord construction. The shawl should suggest, the pattern suggests that you don't keep turning and that you just work the second row backwards, which is what I eventually started doing, and it works quite smoothly. It's rather fun to do. The thing is, it's quite long to bind off just one stitch, and yeah, it's going to take me a while. And I just thought it was funny how I thought, hey, I'm finished, and how naive was that. So yeah, this is a little bit weird to show, but this is what it looks right now. I'm going to show you one of the bound off sides. So there you go. So you see, this is the chart I was talking about that is quite bulky. Basically, I had the option to repeat that another time. And you see, I think that's plenty. That's enough of that motif. And yeah. So I'm in the process of finishing it. Sooner than I thought, but it's still going to take me quite a little bit. I don't know how big it's going to be because, like I said, I only used about 800 meters of yarn. I just joined my 3rd ball of yarn for the bind off, so yeah, I'm gonna have almost 2 full skeins left. So yeah, obviously it's going to block. Oh yeah, it's going to be big enough, I figure. Plus, a circle shawl, maybe it's not the most wearable thing. It's more like a statement thing, I guess. But yeah, I really like how it's looking, and I can't wait to keep binding off. I have all of this left to bind off. Yep. I think I made about a quarter, maybe. Not sure. And yeah, then I'll have to block it. Somehow, the pattern suggests that you thread a piece of yarn through all the loops to block it. I don't know how efficient that will be. Obviously, blocking wires would be best, but I guess I'm going to be a bit lazy and I'm just going to pin stuff like this and hope that it stays flat. I don't care if the little holes don't poke all at once. I just would like these to make not picots, not pointy, but to stay like sort of a scallopy edge. Plain. I actually think you can't hear when the planes are going over the house, but you know. Yeah. So that's a process, and hopefully it won't take me all week. I think it might, but yeah, because it's a bit, it's fun to do, but it gets a bit tedious when you just realize that, okay, I just spent an hour and I've only done this little bit. So yeah. I think I forgot to mention how I was joining my balls of yarn. I think I wanted to talk about it and I forgot last time. I have been using the Russian join for the first time, and so basically I didn't want to weave in ends in this. Obviously I can't avoid the first one and the last one, so these I will have to weave in, but I didn't want to weave in ends throughout the shawl because weaving in ends in lace, it just shows, it looks bad, and oh, that's so beautiful. Anyway, it looks bad, it shows, it had some bulk, I don't like it. And so obviously you could split splice or wet splice if you were using a woolly yarn. The thing is, I am using drops lace, which is alpaca and silk, which does not split splice very well for me. So, is that the correct term, split splice? What does it say, splice? No, that's not the right thing. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I could not use it for drops lace. It doesn't stay as much. It makes the joint really messy because I have to try to felt it in spite of everything, and it doesn't really work and it looks bad. So I decided to try the Russian join method, which I heard was the best for lace shawls with yarns that were silky and that couldn't felt so well. It's too complicated to explain like this. I'll put the link to the tutorial I followed. It's a Craftsy tutorial and it was very clear and it works really well. Basically what you're doing is that you're making the yarns connect through loops and then you're threading the tails in the yarn itself. That's what you're doing by going through the plies or the fibers should you be using a single ply. It is super sturdy. I put on Instagram when I was doing it the first time, I could just pull really harshly and it wasn't getting undone. It's really, really sturdy. It leaves a little bit of a thicker spot, but it's invisible when you actually knit it. You feel it on your fingers, but it doesn't show. And no ends to weave in, so that's really, really convenient and easy to do. And I think I kind of want to try it for other things. I don't know how good it will look in thicker weight yarns. Have to try, but anyway, yeah, I'll leave the link to the tutorial below so you can try it if you want. I highly recommend it. I found it to be really sturdy and it is indeed the best solution for this type of thing. So yeah, this is in the works still, and yeah, hopefully next week, maybe, I hope, we'll see. But yeah, it's going to look lovely and I hope big enough. Silk will just spread when wet, I guess. The second work in progress that I want to share with you is my Varma pullover, the sweater that I'm test knitting for Sari Nordlund, and it's going nicely, slowly but nicely. I have finished the texture panel in the middle. Let me show you the right. So it's a little bit tricky to show you because I am knitting it with Holst Supersoft at a rather loose gauge. It's 21 stitches. And so basically before it's washed it doesn't look like much, but if I put my hand behind it you can see the motif. There you go. This is how it's going to look like. And so I have finished it. There's some neck shaping around here. So it's going to go like this. And yeah, it's definitely going to relax. Someone else has finished, another tester has finished their sweater, and they've used Holst Supersoft as well. They've used a pink color for the texture panel. It looks really sweet, it's really beautiful. And their panel has relaxed and bloomed, and it was absolutely lovely. And so even when I don't stretch it, it's sitting where it sits on Sari's photos, so I think it should be okay. So this is done. This was a bit weird, weirdly long to do. I don't know why. It was enjoyable. It's just that it's the type of motif that it's not complicated at all to do, but I still had to look at the chart. So that caused me a little bit of an issue, because when I knit something, I basically have two mindsets. Either something is easy enough for me to not have to look at the chart or anything, and I can just zoom away while watching Netflix. Anne with an E. Have you watched the second season of Anne with an E? It's absolutely lovely. And yeah, I was finishing my Green Gables show while watching second season, and it's a really endearing show. I really like it. And I finished it in a day, and now I'm sad. But yes, so either I do that, or it's something that I need to focus on, and then I basically only knit and I listen to music or knitting podcasts, something I don't need to look at because I'm looking at the chart. And this was in between. I had to look at the chart, even though you know where it's easy to read, but I still had to look at the chart to remember what I was supposed to do in that row. And then at the same time, it was not that complicated, that I was satisfied with just looking at the chart and focusing on it. So it was a bit of an in-between thing where I was like, yes, it's not really focused knitting, it's not really relaxed knitting. So it was a bit annoying me that I was working on it rather slowly compared to what I should have been. But it's looking absolutely beautiful. And yeah, so now I have already provisionally cast on, because again, you provisionally cast on everything for that sweater, knit in pieces and then seam everything. So this is one side for the front. Then I have the back, I have the middle panel. I'm doing, I believe, the left side, or this one, because I don't know if she says left. I forgot if she says left for front facing, or left as in it's going to be in your left. Side, and then I'm going to seam everything, make the ribbing, finishing, and then the sleeves. And yeah, so now it's only going to be stockinette and seaming, which I hope will go okay. But yeah, so like I said, I'm using Holst Supersoft, Tundra, Vintage Heather, and this is the back, and Almond. And yeah, so as you can see, this is the back, and this is the front. And so the front is going to look like this, basically. It all looks very messy. I've left some ends because I don't understand how I'm supposed to seam the shoulders at the end, so I'll have to really pay attention to that. But I've left some long tails just in case, and all the threads for the provisional cast on. So it's a little bit of a messy project, but I really appreciate that it's done in broken parts like this, because you feel like you're only working on a small piece at once, and then you're all going to put it all together. You know, I really like the convenience of top-down end-around sweaters, but I do appreciate as well seamed sweaters, because yeah, like I said, you have small parts and then it all comes together. I don't dislike seaming that much. So yeah, I feel attracted to seamed sweater in pieces as well, and I might design some as well, because I have ideas for things that might not work the best in the round. So yeah, now it's just stockinette. The deadline for the testnet is early August, so yeah, I think it's going to be okay. And if I need to, I'll just focus on it a little bit and get it done. But yeah, I can't wait for the autumn to actually be wearing it. Speaking of Anne with an E, everyone has said that that second season has lovely knitwear, and yeah, it's quite nice. Although I've noticed things that seemed to be woven, like Marilla, and I think as well Josephine, I'm not sure. There's a lot of people have like a hand woven wrapped blanket things, not hand woven, but that looks woven, and they look really stunning. And I kind of want to make weaving with bulkier yarn now. Yeah, but most of all, what I loved is the skirt. The high-waisted tweedy tartan skirts. Oh my god, I want one. It's completely out of place. I don't know if I can wear that unless I'm going at some sort of vintage reproduction fair, but it looks so beautiful. I think you can pull it off if you make like some sort of loose fitted waist thingy skirt with some pockets, and you choose a flowy tweed fabric. I think that can be a thing. I kind of want one. I also want a house that's all wood painted white. I'm really impressed by the decor in the house of Green Gables. I love it. I want to decorate my house like this. Like, it's just so nice and so Instagrammable, right? But it's really a visually inspiring show. Not so much for the knitwear for me, even though like the garter stitch scarves and things, they're lovely. But actually, for knitting inspiration, Stranger Things, if you look at the season 2 at all of Nancy's outfits, she's wearing a lot of amazing sweaters, hand knitted sweaters that would be totally easy to reproduce. And yeah, so that's a thing. But for Anne with an E, I'm more about the tweed skirts and the house decor. Yeah. That was a little tangent, but if you haven't watched Anne with an E, I highly recommend it. It's a very endearing show. I hate House on the Little House on the Prairie, whatever the name is. I hated it. It was I don't know, my sister loved it, but I never got into it. The show was boring me, the books were boring me. I don't know, it wasn't a thing I got into when I was young. And I never read Anne of Green Gables because it wasn't that popular here in France, not as much as Little House on the Prairie. And I guess all of these things, along with Heidi, they all got mixed up into my head, as in, I don't care about peasants living in wooden houses and stuff. You know, I like to read about dragons and magic. That was my thing. And so I never actually read Anne of Green Gables, the books. But the show is very endearing, and I really like the mood of it. It's quite funny. I enjoy it a lot. And like I said, it's visually and creatively very inspiring. So I highly recommend that you watch it. And I don't know why I'm talking about this in the middle of my knitting section, but you have to be used by now to my randomness. Anyway, I have one last project to share with you. I just had a cough, a coughing session, so if my eyes look teary, that's why. It's a new design. So I don't know if you remember that last year, about in December, I released a free pattern for Christmas as a gift. It was something that I had worked on quite a while ago, and it is the bold soprano hat, which is a colorwork hat. with motif inspired by the Romanian traditional embroideries. And I had in my mind for quite some time now that I wanted to adapt that motif for socks. And from the start, I didn't want it to be an overall colorwork pattern because I thought that would look a little bit odd due to the nature of the motif. And so I envisioned colorwork with cables. And so this is what I came up with. I finally decided to cast them on, and this is it. So these are the bold soprano socks. And so you have that motif that is similar to the one in the bold soprano hat. The motif that I charted for the bold soprano hat is exactly the same as the one that is found in Romanian handcraft and look and everything. But this I had to obviously adapt it for it to be on a smaller circumference, and I also had to fill in with little motifs so that it would not have long floats, because I didn't want to inflict that on you. And since I wanted it to be in the proper Romanian colors, that is red, black and white, long red floats on a white fabric, it shows. So no. But yeah, this is what I have. I made a rather long cuff, and then you have the colorwork motif here, which is really fun and quick to do. You go up a needle size, obviously. Then I wanted to incorporate the black. I wanted it to not be in the chart because 3 colors at once for socks, I didn't see the bother really, and I thought that this looked much more delicate if the black was separated. And I also decided to make the toe black, just to remind it. And then I worked these cables that I modified from a chart that I found that I really loved, and yes, you can see them. I really like how plump they look. I really, really love them. I want to use them in a bunch of different things. I don't know exactly how well they would look on as a, you know, when you make a cable sweater, you always have little cables. I don't know how well these will incorporate because of the broken bits here, but I think that on this sock they look really, really cool. And yeah. So bold soprano socks, I've done a heel flap and gusset for comfort, because it's the best fit for me. And so I have one. I'm knitting the other along with the testers. I have sent the pattern to testers and I'm waiting on their feedback. If you're watching, testers, tell me if you're okay, if you have started and if it's okay. So yeah, it's out in testing. I'm knitting the second sock while I'm testing at the same time. And yeah, I hope to release them sometime at the end of the month. I will see. But yeah, they will come in 2 sizes. This is the small extra small size with 64 stitches. The thing is, since there's colorwork and cable, it's quite a snug fit. For me, I have a medium foot, I'm a European 39. So this is quite a snug fit. For me, it's okay, it's comfortable, and the colorwork goes easily. But yeah, I have decided to make another side, which is 72 stitches, which is a little bit more of a looser fit for a medium foot. I could have done that size for me, and it would have been just as nice for large feet. So yeah, only 2 sizes due to the charting, but I think they cover quite a good range, because you can also adjust your gauge slightly if you want to use the 72 stitch but be a bit looser or a bit tighter, so that it's bigger or smaller. But yeah, I really like how they turned out, and I'm quite proud of them. And I can't wait to hear what my testers think and see what they do. So I obviously picked the Romanian colors, that is cream, white, cream, red and black. But I actually think, so it makes them look a bit Christmassy, I think. But you guys told me on Instagram that you didn't care and that you'd rather have a pattern for Christmas socks now so that you have time to make them for Christmas. You see? But I think it would look really nice if this was blue, you know? If this was like a blue or a green, and yeah, so it would make something a little bit more spring-like. And I think it would look really, really nice. So yes, bold soprano socks. In case you hadn't seen me release it. Military training. I guess they're training for the 14th of July thingy. Anyway, in case you haven't seen me talk about the bold soprano hat, the reason I'm calling all of this bold soprano is because of Eugene Ionesco bold soprano play, which is an absurd play from the second middle of the 20th century, which is absurd theater. What we call absurd theater is one of my favorite thing in the world. I love absurd humor, even though it's not that funny actually when you look at it, especially for Beckett. But yeah, it's Samuel Beckett, Eugene Ionesco, and Eugene Ionesco was a Romanian who came to live and study in France, and he wrote most of his work in French, including the bold soprano, which is one of his most famous play, maybe with rhinoceros, with rhinoceros. So he's Romanian, he wrote in French. I'm French, I'm using a Romanian motif. You see, that was the idea. And I thought that bold soprano was quite a fun name. So that is why these are the bold soprano socks. Yeah, I considered giving them another name than the hat, especially since I have found the perfect solution for me to find pattern names. So sometimes the pattern names just come to me very easily. Most of the time they don't. And the problem is that, you know, some people, they have it so easy, like they're Finnish or Norwegian or something, and they can just use words from their native language. You're all using French. Stop it. Stop using French if you're not French. Please, how do you want me to do it? Basically, whenever I want, there's a lot of French designers, and a lot of people use French words to call their patterns, yarns, whatever. I don't know why. And so it means that I'm like, oh, I like that word in French, which is my native language, and I think it fits that pattern. And then I look on Waverly, and there's like 27 patterns named like this. It's not all a French dictionary that has been used in knitting design, but almost. So yeah, I was a bit in the struggle. I was like, what do I do? And with my garment design that is being tested now, the Tolosa sweater, I am using Occitan, which is the regional language from where I live here. I don't, I can read it, I don't speak it very well. Old people know it, very old people know it. You can still learn it in school. It is not, though, as established as Gaelic or Catalan. It's not as strong of a thing anymore, but it is still known and studied, and it has an impact on French, official French, so to say. And yeah, I just came across a few words in Occitan that I like and that I think will make lovely pattern names. So yeah, you might see a few Occitan words being used for my pattern names in the future. But for this one, I just thought it would make sense if I kept the bold soprano thing, because yeah, it's related and it's quite fun. So yeah. This was supposed to be a really short episode and I am rambling about so many things. Anyway, this is it for the knitting content and yeah, let's move on. I feel like we haven't had a yarn show in quite a while because I'm not buying that much yarn. But I wanted to make myself a little gift because I don't know, I was feeling a bit bummed. I was stressed about things, and so when I came out of it, I decided, okay, I'm going to treat myself, and I saw that my favorite dyers had an update, quite a substantial update recently, and it is Cosmic Strings, which is Fu and Bea from Edinburgh. And if you don't know them, just where are you? They don't appear that much in popular podcasts and everything, but they've been selling at Edinburgh. They're in Perth Festival of Yarn as well, and they have such an amazing sense of colors, and they have great tonals. They have variegated. I'm going to show you one as well, and yeah, they just make really fun, striking, variegated, colorful colorways, crazy associations of color, and they as well have some more toned hand-dyed yarns that are really, really subtle and beautiful. So they're they have a very versatile talent, and their yarn bases are amazing, and I really, really like them. I think it's the dyer I have most yarn. It's the dyer whose yarn I bought the most, basically. I have a lot of it in my stash, a lot of sock yarn. I had a few singles that I used already, and yeah. And so I decided to treat myself. And the first thing I got, and it's what I want to talk about, is this. So this is their Yak Lace base. So it's a 2-ply, well, it's a single, actually, but it says, I don't know why it says 2-ply. Yeah, 2-ply because of even though lace is supposed to be 1-ply. That's weird. You see why I don't like when people use ply to name weights, because it makes zero sense. Anyway, it's a singles, and it's a lace weight, and it has 800 meters to 100 grams, and it is 65% superwash merino, okay, 20% silk, nice, and 15% yak, and hence the halo that you can see. I never had yak blends. It's the first time that I have one that I'm touching. I don't even understand how it is possible that something is so soft. When you touch it, it just feels, with my hands, it feels really soft, but you know, it feels like some alpaca blends, it feels like some really soft cashmere. But when I put it in areas where I could be sensitive, it feels like it's melting, like it's disappearing. I don't understand how that feeling is possible. It's so soft and luxurious. It's the best thing ever. Oh my god. Yeah, I really wanted to try yak blends because 2 things. One, I think it dyes stunningly. So this is the penny colorway, which is this golden bronzy color. I think this has to be one of my favorite colors. It's got caramelly thing. I kind of want to get a sweater's quantity of this in a sock blend. To make a sweater. I might have to check if they have it in stock. I don't think so, because it seems to be quite a popular colorway. I hope they don't have it in stock so that I don't have to buy it. Anyway, yeah, it's so penny colorway. They have another colorway that is nugget that looks like it's slightly more brown, but this is penny, and it's more golden, and it's just so deep because of the yak. So the yak comes like, there are white yaks, but it's quite rare. So most of yak blends, they're like beigey, almost brown, and so when you, I wonder if the dyeing process on it has to be different, like if you have to saturate the colors more, or if you have to, you probably have to be careful which colors you're choosing. But all of the dyers that I've seen dye dye yak, oh my god, that is so stunning. It gives such a richness, such a depth. Obviously the colors appear slightly darker, slightly more earthy. Basically, it's like when you're dyeing on the gray base, you already notice that there's a subtlety, but it's a cold depth. The yak, because I guess it's beige brown, it's a warm depth. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but it is really, really stunning. And if you look at, if you compare colorways that have been dyed on traditional blends that are white and yak bases, wow, the difference is absolutely really, really strong, and the yak one always has my heart because it is stunning. So the yak takes colors in a beautiful way, and you see it's only 15% of it, and it's already giving that much of a halo and a rich color. I just love it. 2, cashmere is awful. I like cashmere, but I've recently learned that I guess this is no news to anyone, but the cashmere production is quite harmful to the environment because of the quantity and everything that they're doing, and so many goats. But yeah, and so yak seems to be a better, more responsible alternative for something that is extremely soft, like cashmere. And apparently it seems like yak doesn't peel as much as cashmere as well. I'll have to see that, even though this is a single, so maybe I'm like pushing it a little bit. But we'll see. Yak does have the reputation to not peel as much as other super soft fibers, like some superwash, super soft merinos or cashmere. So I'll see how it goes. This is an absolutely beautiful base. So like I said, merino, obviously, silk, and yak. I have plans for this. This is a lace weight skin. I have planned to design a wrap, like lacy, cabley wrap. I think it would be absolutely luscious in this color, and I'll have to play a little bit to get the right gauge and stitch definition because of the halo and the fact that it is single. But I think it's a really interesting yarn. It's stunning, and I am super happy that I got it. And of course, while I was at it, I just got another skin because I really like their sock blends, and this is a colorway that I had in mind for a while. It's Nausicaa. Ghibli fan here. Yeah, and it is this purpley black pink with some rust blend. It's really, really beautiful, and I didn't pay attention, but I noticed that they go really well together. So that's unintentional, because they're actually like, this is going to be a project, and this is probably going to be just a cool pair of socks. But yeah, if you're looking for a nice color combo for a shawl, like, oh, this will make a nice florasol, maybe. Anyway, yeah, but this is their sock base, so it's 75-25, and it's quite generous. It has 425 meters to 100 grams, so it's one of the thinner fingerings. It's quite tightly plied. It's yeah, it's really, really nice. Yeah, so that was my little treat, and I haven't bought hand-dyed yarn in quite some time, and I can't wait to work with this. So that is it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and that my tangents weren't too tangenty. But yeah, I wish you a happy day, night and week. I will see you next time with, I hope, a finished object or two. Yeah, have a great time. Bye!